What is going on, guys? Johnny on the track back with another video. A monumental day yesterday between NASCAR 2311 and Front Row Motorsports. A huge day that will be remembered for a long time in the history of NASCAR and the history of this sport. Whether you feel positively, feel negatively, I think all those thoughts, are going to be remembered for this case. It got ugly. It got hostile at points. There were sponsors getting involved like Johnny Morris and Bass Pro Shops. There were nasty texts exposed. This was something else. But personally, I think it is a positive step forward for NASCAR and a positive step forward for the teams, obviously, as well. Whether, again, however you feel about Denny Hamlin, positive, negative. I think he has to be applauded for, standing up to the big man, if you will, and never backing down and continuing to fight for, something he believes in that he thinks, will better grow the sport. And I think a lot of, as we saw, teams might have felt a similar way, as Denny Hamlin. But the purpose of me making this video is I kind of want to lay out, in my opinion, I mean, again, this is just my opinion, but what it means for both sides with this settlement. What it means for NASCAR and what it means for the teams. And NASCAR, I would say, kind of like the sport moving forward, I guess. I would lump that in. But that's what I want to talk about today, because again, plenty of other legal experts can take you into, the details around what is what. But the main thing, the absolute main thing that is coming out of this case is what they're calling evergreen charters, which basically just means permanent charters, right? Now, there are some nuggets, and I want to read this tweet from Bob Pockrass on X. Seems like, again, this was yesterday, so I don't believe there has been any updates based on new tweets from Bob, but he writes, sounds like framework of evergreen charters. 2/3 of teams need to okay renewal. If you don't sign the renewal, still chartered, get next year or possibly more to sell the charter. If you don't meet performance standards, must sell. And then NASCAR now actually gets a larger percentage of a charter sale. It was 2%, so NASCAR now gets 10%. So obviously, again, the teams kind of had to make some concessions, and obviously this is one in that settlement. But I actually looked into that. I was interested to see, like, I Googled, if you sell your MLB team, does, Major League Baseball take a cut? They don't. NFL, same thing. They don't take a cut. But I did find in the NBA that there does seem to be some sort of revenue sharing. If you do sell your NBA team, it seems like somehow the NBA is taking cut of that. So, a little interesting. But it is something that it seems like happens not in all sports leagues, but the NBA seems to again take some sort of a cut on sales. But I thought that was interesting because it doesn't seem like it's very par for the course, and 10% is quite a hefty chunk. I mean, you sell your charter for 100 million, NASCAR's taken 10 million of that, right? So thought that was interesting. But that is again like the big framework around evergreen charters, and kind of the major thing that I think 2311 and Front Row Motorsports were fighting for in this case. And it makes sense, right? And I think that's where I want to start. So, what does this mean for the teams? I really have kind of three big major points I want to go through. Number one, I think they can now, or they will now, invest more in something that they truly own, right? Because, it's interesting, right? Like all these leasing, like, RFK is leasing a charter from I think Legacy. So Ryan Preece, right, can race, and you hear this a lot, leasing a charter from Rick Ware, yada yada yada. Um, essentially, like prior to that deal, like these were all leases, right? Every charter was just a lease because you didn't actually own that until you signed with a pen a piece of paper that says, yeah, I'm locked in again for this new rights deal, right? So why would you want to invest something that you don't actually own? Again, that if you are leasing a car, are you going to do all this, crap to your car? I mean, obviously there's regulations, but no, right? Like you don't own that car. And I think that's huge, right? So now these teams actually have full ownership of this franchise now, if you will. Again, that's really what this charter is. It's you being a franchise and a true owner of something that, is just a part of an entity, which in this case is NASCAR. But I think this is going to go a long way for the teams. I think they're going to want to invest more to build the value of their business now, because that's all it is now. It's a business, right? You own a business, you own a share of something that now can truly build value, and whatever you choose to do with that in the end, I mean, is your decision, right? Obviously, these teams can sell these charters, so is the plan, build up, build up, build up, and then sell for, a lot more than you got in for, right? Who knows? But I think that's going to be big. I think these teams are going to feel like they can invest, feel more invested in general as kind of like ownership. You feel like sometimes a lot of the stories you hear is a lot of the top owners in NASCAR losing the love for the sport, trying to get their way out of the sport. I mean, we even heard that Richard Childress was exploring selling his charter, right? So I think this kind of levels, resets the framework, if you will. And I think we're going to see a lot more teams start to really, really invest in something that now belongs to them truly. I think that's a monumental thing for NASCAR. Obviously, I want to, also add that, now they have financial stability, right? Now, I think you can scope and kind of how do I say this? But sell, if you will, a sponsor that, hey, you are buying into something that we feel like is going to go up in value, right? For you, for us, all that stuff. I think that message will go a longer way to a sponsor who maybe feels like, again, why am I investing something that, you know, I'm not really sure about. Like, what is this? Do you own this? Am I investing essentially in the sport? Am I investing in your team, your franchise? I think again, I think there might be a spike in sponsorship, quite frankly. And that might come from, teams like 23 and 11 that again feel more invested in what they're doing, can craft new ways again to attract sponsors. I think we're going to see that. I genuinely do. I think there's going to be an increase in sponsorship for a lot of these teams because the sponsors I feel like can or will, again, just feel like they can lean on something that actually can build equity, quite frankly. Um, what else did I have here? And I think now the frustration subsides a little bit with the teams because clearly more than just 2311 and Front Row Motorsports were frustrated. Clearly. I mean, we saw it with JGR in some of the testimonies, in that piece, right? We saw it with RCR, obviously, with sponsors like Johnny Morrison and Richard Childress himself was trying to get out of NASCAR, sell his way out, and at least explore selling, right? So clearly, a lot of the teams were frustrated in their own ways. And I think, again, this kind of resets everybody and now puts everybody, okay, here's where we're at now. We've got to work together. And I think Denny Hamlin, whether you believe him or not, and Michael Jordan as well. And I think front row, I'm seeing a lot of 2311, but both those teams, I think that, the message to them is, hey, we're here now. Let's build together. We're going to work with you more, NASCAR. We're going to help you if you can help us. Obviously they did help, right, with these permanent evergreen charters. But again, I think now you're going to get more of a partnership between the teams as well as NASCAR. I think that's what we're going to see, quite frankly. And I think the pressure now is off. NASCAR a little bit. Obviously, there were some, pretty crazy conversations going on behind the scenes from a lot of different people, a lot of different feelings, from team owners and NASCAR executives. You hope that everybody is just, all right, let's just put that behind us. Today's a new day. We go forward together. So that's how I see it for the teams, quite frankly. Now from the kind of NASCAR perspective. I'll start with the ugly. This is a big, in my opinion, as I build on what I just said, right? From that like team perspective of, hey, here we are now. Let's just start building together. Let's work together. Let's be friends again. I think from NASCAR, it's the old CYA, which is cover your ass. I think NASCAR kind of covered their ass here. It got pretty ugly in a lot of different senses, from leak texts, as I mentioned, leak emails, Johnny Morris in that letter, being so upset of how NASCAR treated Richard Childress. Clearly, I think NASCAR knew this could have got a lot uglier, and they stopped it in its tracks rather, and said, okay, this is the max here. This is the farthest we can go. Because we're only gonna lose. We have a lot more to lose than we have to gain at this point, and I think I don't want to say they took the easy way out. Absolutely not. But they stopped this in its tracks and said, okay, we've got to get to the table because this can get bad. And at this point, we need to cover ourselves because we're in a bad spot, clearly, with the fans, with the team owners, and all that. So I think NASCAR understood that and made a smart business decision for their business. That's what I would say in regards to that. Number two, I would say that NASCAR has lost some power. They've absolutely lost some power, but I do think in the long haul, this will actually help them out. Again, now NASCAR doesn't really own those pieces of paper. The teams own those pieces of paper. Now, NASCAR has helped, some financial benefit if some of these teams sell, but who knows how much a team would actually sell for. But you feel like these charters will only go up in value as, money grows and inflation and more investment, right? All this sort of stuff. So that's just kind of how this stuff works, right? Everything goes up in value, but not everything. But in a league like this, especially with the new media rights deal, everything's only going up at this point. So, although NASCAR has lost some of their power rather at this exact moment, I think again you're going to have more buy-in and commitment from the teams that I think again is going to help grow sponsorship and grow the sport as a whole. You're going to have more sponsors investing in the teams. I believe that, quite frankly, and I think in the end it's going to help grow everybody from the teams as well as NASCAR. Now NASCAR has a lot of work to do with the product itself, right? From the car to the playoff system, all that stuff. But put that behind for a second. The biggest thing is now the teams, in my opinion, will be investing more in something they own to build that asset, and I think that's going to help NASCAR as well. I truly do. Um, and then you know, there's the pros and cons of, you know, press, right? And to be honest with you, as bad as the press maybe got with NASCAR and some of the things that we found out they said behind closed doors, it can be one of those things where like any press sometimes is good press, right? You had people that like I got texts from friends of mine that know nothing about NASCAR that don't watch NASCAR. Be like, give me an elevator pitch or give me 30 seconds on what the heck is going on here, right? Michael Jordan is suing NASCAR. What the heck's going on? I got those texts, and quite frankly, I think a lot of people had eyes on what's going on. What is this? Tell me more about this. Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? So, again, I think sometimes no matter it being negative, and obviously there's a cap on how negative something can be, but again, this was just a lawsuit. right? In federal court, that is what it is, right? But um, sometimes any press can be positive, right? Because you're just getting more eyes in conversations and people like myself and other YouTube bloggers or content creators, getting their opinions out there and getting the facts out there. You have more people covering it. ESPN, right, was looking at this. Which how often does ESPN have segments on NASCAR? Rarely, right? But Michael Jordan was involved, suing the sport, and a lot of people were talking about this. And is that the best thing for NASCAR when they look like the bully in all this? No, but in the end, you maybe people that didn't know Michael Jordan was truly as invested as he is as a team owner in NASCAR, maybe that helps you in the long haul. Maybe that helps some of these basketball fans who adore and love Michael Jordan say, "Oh, Jordan's in NASCAR and he got what he wanted. Oh, maybe I'll tune in. I didn't know he has a team." Right? So, again, there's plenty of other factors that I think economically and financially are going to help. But this is kind of just one of those instances where sometimes people looking at you, people talking about you, um, isn't always the worst thing. So that's kind of another way that I see see this here, right? So that to me are kind of the main factors in where I think this sits in the kind of what's next for both NASCAR and the teams. Like I said, what a crazy last few weeks, leading up to this trial, watching and learning about how this trial unfolds to this or to yesterday rather, where finally they get to the table and they settle, and we are at a new day from both NASCAR as an entity and for the teams and how they're looking at this and willing to grow and move forward in the right direction with the sport. So, all in all, just a wild few weeks, with all this. So, want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Where does NASCAR go from here? Like, what is the perspective around now the sport with NASCAR, with the teams? Interested to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked what you watch, please give this video a like, goes a long way for the channel. And then, of course, please hit that subscribe button down below as we continue to make content leading up to the NASCAR season that begins in February. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.